I am the coordinator of the MCB Honors concentration. I've been doing this for about 7 years now. I have my PhD from Illinois here in plant biology. I got my undergrad at Washington University in St. Louis. I came here for my PhD program, and then I was in research here for several years before I took this position. And then I've been doing this for a while, as I said, and I really enjoy working with students. And today I'm going to talk to you a bit about the MCB Honors concentration and how you will apply and things like that. The first thing I wanted to tell you was how to find out more information if you want to get more information after we're done today, or if you want to refer any of your friends to this information. The website, we do have an honors webpage. You can get to it easily by just Googling MCB Honors Illinois, or you can find it on the MCB webpage under, it's a little bit obscure, but you have to know to look under opportunities. There's a webpage for undergrad research and then one for MCB Honors right underneath that. The link to this presentation is near the top here. There's a link to the PowerPoint. There's going to be a link to the video presentation. When we get that ready, it will also be placed here. And then there's a lot of information on the web page about the program. Further down on the page, there's a link to the fact page for the program, so there's some more information there. There's a link to the online application, which I may come back to later if I forget. Just know there's a link to the online application here as well. And then the letter of evaluation form that needs to be submitted by your evaluator, which I'll talk about more later as well. Those are all linked here on the web page. So I'm just going to go straight to the PowerPoint. I'm just going to link to it from here. So what I'm going to talk about today are give you a bit of an overview of the honors concentration first, talk about the requirements for admission to the concentration, what are the requirements for completing the concentration, how do you stay in the concentration once you're admitted, and a lot of students in the concentration are James Scholars, so I'll talk a bit about the overlap with the James Scholar program, and then I'll talk to you about how you apply and what the admission process is like. Okay, so what are some of the benefits of the MCB Honors concentration? Well, the honors concentration in MCB is really designed for students who are planning to graduate from Illinois and then go on into professional school, medical school, law school, vet school, pharmacy, something like that, or go on into graduate school. It gives you more interaction with the faculty. You will have more contact and more exploration, in-depth exploration of the class material. You have a cohort of students that you will be interacting with. That's a small group of honor students that you will have the same classes with and the same honors discussions with. And that is a smaller class size than a standard discussion. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. I'll point out here too that our program is very unique. I've done some research into what are called honors programs at other universities around the country. And what you'll find if you look into that yourself is that most of those programs are more like what we call distinction, which is you do participate in undergraduate research and you write a senior thesis and you graduate with honors. We have that at Illinois. In MCB, we call it graduation with distinction, but our honors concentration is something very different. It's extra coursework, you have to maintain a higher GPA, and you have to do more work. But when you put in the more work, you get out the greater benefit. So I want to point that out because I think it's important to understand that this is a unique program and a very unique opportunity for students to be able to take advantage of. It's something that you wouldn't get at other universities around the country. So, the MCB Honors concentration is a subcategory of the MCB major. And because of that, you can't be in the MCB Honors major and remain in biochemistry or in IB. If you're a biology undecided major, that's okay. And if you're already declared as an MCB major, that's okay. What happens is if you're admitted into MCB Honors, we just automatically switch your major into MCB Honors. If you're in a completely different major other than that, then we do some extra paperwork, but you have your major changed to MCB Honors. If you want to do a double or a triple major, I have had students do 3 majors, That's okay too, but MCB has to be your primary major. So ideally, to be admitted into the MCB Honors concentration, you have to have completed or be enrolled in MCB 150 on this campus. So so most of you are freshmen, you took MCB 150 last semester, or you're taking it this semester. You can have had transfer or proficiency credit. However, if you have AP credit and you're deciding to use that AP credit and you're planning on enrolling in 250, 251 this semester, that doesn't work. And if that's your situation, you're going to need to talk to me about it, because pretty much we've gotten to the point now where we really don't have the ability to allow students to do that, because we just can't run honor sections of 250 and 251 in the spring. We don't have enough students who want to take them. So, freshmen. How many people in here are freshmen? Most of you, okay. Freshmen should apply now in the spring semester. You should be planning to take 250 and 251 in the fall, and that's when you will be officially beginning in the honors concentration. If your situation is different than that, then you should talk to me at some point. Sophomores and transfer students can be eligible to apply as long as you have not yet enrolled in MCB 250 and 251, because you must complete honor sections in these courses as part of the concentration, and they're not offered this semester. Now, under some circumstances, students may be allowed to substitute advanced work for missing those honor sections for one or the other, but not both. So if you have that situation, you need to talk to me, and I can tell you what your possible options might be. So then what am I looking for to admit you? So evidence of appropriate preparation typically includes an ACT score of 29 or higher. Now that's not a firm, I'm not using that as a firm cutoff, but that's typically what I see in the students who successfully are admitted. An average cumulative GPA in math and science courses of 3.5 or higher, and that pretty much is firm these days. The competition is pretty strong. If you don't have a 3.5 cumulative, actually, just even cumulative, that's just math or science, but just straight cumulative GPA of 3.5 or higher, you're probably not going to get in. This is after your first semester, obviously, or if you're transfer, then it would be more. We're looking, and again, this is another firm, B+ or better in MCB 150. If you're taking it this semester, we base this upon your midterm grades, so we will be looking at your midterm grade. B or better in any chemistry course. Actually, we typically look for B+ or better in your chemistry courses, but I will sometimes hedge a little on that if everything else looks really strong. Motivation for honors work. Now that one's often a little hard to determine, but I look at that based upon the history that I see in your academic work, the essays that you write for your application, and the interview that hopefully you make it to as far as the interview and what I see in the interview. And also there's a letter of recommendation. So you are required to submit an online application, and I'll show that to you in a minute. It's not too difficult. And a letter of recommendation, and I'll say something about that in a minute as well. So once you're admitted, what do you have to do? First of all, unlike IB Honors, which if any of you have looked into your options in both the biology majors, you may have looked into IB Honors. IB Honors has a different curriculum or different set of coursework than the IB major. MCB is not like that. MCB has the standard MCB major plus some additional work. So you still have to do all the same things and take the same courses, the same physics and the same calculus and the same other courses that you would have to take as a standard MCB major. In addition to that, you have to complete honor sections in all of the MCB core courses. With that exception, if you're somehow missing 250 or 251, you might have to make that up later. But preferably, you're taking honor sections in all the MCB core courses. The lecture courses, 250, 252, and 354, all have honors discussion sections. And the lab courses, 251 and 253, all have honors discussion sections as well. To completing those honor sections, and there are 5 of those total, you have to complete what we call 4 advanced honors courses. Now, for these 4 things, you can choose from a list of options. And I'm going to say these a little bit out of the order that they're listed here, but what the vast majority of students in the honors concentration will choose to do to complete these options is the first thing they'll choose is undergraduate research. Most of our students plan on doing undergraduate research anyway. So they feel as if this isn't even an extra thing that they're doing. They feel it's something that they were going to do anyway, and so they're just going to do it, and isn't this great because I'm doing that anyway. So MCB 290 undergraduate research, as long as you take it for a minimum of 2 credit hours in a semester or 1 in the summer, can count towards fulfilling up to 2 of your 4 things. You can count it up to 2 times. Most of our students do more than that, but you can count it up to 2 times for your 4 things. If you go on to do senior thesis, that can count as well. So if you're really into the research, you've knocked out 3 of your 4 things right off the bat. Okay, so that is one of the most common routes. Another thing that's very common is to do an honors project in an advanced MCB course. So the standard MCB major requires 15 hours of advanced coursework in the major. If you take any one of those courses and complete an honors project in it, it can count here. So it can count in both places. So again, it's not really a lot of extra coursework, it's just an extra project. How many of you sitting here are James Scholars? Okay, so that course can count towards your James Scholar credit in the semester that you're taking it. So that's helpful too. You can also take an additional advanced MCB course. So we call that an extra. So once you've taken your 15 hours, you can take 1 more advanced course. And again, a lot of our students plan on taking more advanced MCB courses anyway, so that's no big deal for them. The important thing to understand here is it can't just be more than 15 hours, it has to be an extra course. So if for some reason your numbers add up to 16 or 17 hours, that's okay, whatever, but you still have to take 1 more whole course. So that's just something we work out when I talk to you about it. There are the 493 special topics is something we used to have a number of special topics courses that did not count for advanced hours, and so it used to be that students could take those if they were honor students and have them count as one of their things. It's become more and more common over the last several semesters that most of our advanced courses are approved for, most of our special topics courses have been approved for advanced hours, so they can no longer be used as this category. So this is a little bookkeeping thing that's kind of complicated for you guys to understand. So this is a category that you can use, but very few people end up using it because of how the courses are listed. So study abroad. So the study abroad is another option. However, it has to be one of our MCB approved specific study abroad programs, which means it has to be Newcastle or the Beijing, which has been canceled for the last several years because it's going through some restructuring, which is a summer program. And then we have a new program coming up in Stockholm, which would also count. And that's a 1-semester program. Newcastle is supposed to be, typically it's a year. I have had students do for 1 semester, but it's typically a year. Let's see. Some of our advanced courses offer a special section that graduate students take if they're taking the course for graduate credit. If an honor student were to take that course, they can take the graduate section for honors credit. So if you do that, that can count here, and in that particular situation, that course could also count as a James Scholar course. So there's a lot of overlap, it's a little nuanced, but I take you through it step by step, whatever it becomes your time to make these decisions. And then finally, I have a special list of courses that are not MCB courses. They're advanced courses offered in other majors. There's a number of IB courses on that list. There's some anthropology courses, there's some advanced statistics courses. They're all courses that have been chosen to be of interest to MCB majors and courses that you would typically have the prerequisites for that students in the honors concentration could take and count towards this list. In every one of these cases that I've just described, you can only do each category 1 time except for the research. and the special topics, but again, that one's doesn't happen very often anyway. So you can't just say, oh, I'm going to take a whole bunch of extra advanced MCB courses and that's going to be my 4 things, or I'm going to take a bunch of courses off that supplemental list and that's going to be my 4 things. We want you, the purpose of that is for students to diversify. The purpose of this list is to try to provide honor students with lots of opportunities to do different things and encourage them to do different things and explore different interests. And we don't want you to concentrate all of that in one specific area. It's, again, some of this is kind of complicated, and so it's very important that students meet with me. And so you'll see later on one of the requirements of being in the honors concentration is that you meet with me for advising every semester, so that I make sure that you're going through all of this correctly and that you understand what your options are and that you're making adequate progress. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about James Scholar. The honors sections in MCB 250, 251, 252, 253, and 354 all will count for James Scholar credit. Each of those courses, well, the lecture courses are all 2 credits and the lab courses are, the lecture courses are all 3 credits and the lab courses are 2 credits. But in each of those cases, you get an additional 1 hour of graded credit for the honors discussion. Okay, so in the end, you get 10, 13 plus 5, 18 hours towards James Scholar, just by doing the honors concentration required discussion sections. Okay, but it only ends up covering you for 3 semesters. And you don't get to apply that ahead. So even though you double up in your sophomore year, both of those semesters, they don't allow you to kind of apply that forward. But it does help you when you accumulate those hours, especially if your GPA is high enough to qualify for Latin honors, because for Latin honors you need a total of 25 honors hours, and so this really does help you get those honors hours if that's something that you're shooting for. Also, the honors project or the honors section in an advanced MCB course count for James Scholar credit. You have to complete the HCLA. And also, as another note, if you do a senior thesis, that will count as your James Scholar course for your last semester, although the hours don't count as honors hours. But that's something you have to talk to the James Scholar Honor Office about. Anybody have a question about James Scholar? If you are admitted to the honors concentration, there's a few things that you have to do to remain in good standing. The first is that you must maintain a minimum GPA. And the minimum is that we look at both your cumulative GPA and your major GPA. And you have to maintain either a 3.5 cumulative or a 3.3 major. We'll let either of them be the minimum. If you go below that in both, you have a 1 semester probationary period to bring it back up again. But I will tell you that if you dip below late in the game, when you've already accumulated a large number of hours, it can be very difficult to bring it back up again. If you have if it's one bad grade, okay, and it's really close, but if it's if you have a really bad semester, it's very hard to bring it back up again. But on the other side, I've had very few students. I've had over about 120 students graduate in the honors concentration, and I think I've probably only lost 2 or 3 due to GPA. Second is complete the required honors courses in the core courses with a grade of B- or better. So if you're a James Scholar, you know that in order to get honors credit in a course, you have to get a B- or better. So the same thing is true in these. To get the honors credit in the course, you have to have that B- or better. Now that is something that has happened to some of my students. But the nice thing, or I don't know if it's nice, but the one thing about the honors concentration is if you want to, you don't have to leave the honors concentration. You can elect to retake that course. I've had a few, again, very few students who did get a C+ in either 250 or 354, and they elected to retake the course with the honors section to improve their grade rather than leave the honors concentration. It's happened only a very few times. This one is not really a requirement. It's just what happens. You end up taking an average of about 1 honors course per semester in your last few semesters in order to finish all the requirements. And then this last one is a requirement. You have to meet with me for advising, as I said before. And ironically, I have had to dismiss one person for not meeting with me on a repeated basis for advising. So, and I don't say those things to scare you all off, but to actually tell you that these things are very rare. With 120 students, I've very rarely actually had to dismiss people. People do sometimes choose not to finish, but they very rarely get dismissed. Academic integrity, again, unfortunately, early on, not in a long time, I've had to dismiss a couple of people for academic integrity violations. Unfortunately, this does happen on a rare occasion, but if you are found in violation of the student code on academic integrity, you're dismissed from the honors concentration. There's no appeal process for that, really. Okay. What does it look like? I get this question a lot. Everyone in this room who majors in MCB, when you get your diploma, your major's not on your diploma. It says you have a bachelor's degree, a Bachelor of Science in Liberal Arts and Sciences. Your major appears on your transcript. And if you're in the honors concentration, it will say that you have a major in MCB with a concentration in MCB honors. So that's how that shows up. Okay, so the application period, oh, I'm sorry, there's a typo in there. That's supposed to be spring 2014. Will be open. Actually, the online application is open. It's supposed to go live tomorrow, but I think I glitched it and it's already there, but that's fine. It's not a big deal. It's available through February 24th is the final day for submission. It's online as a web form. You must also have a letter of recommendation submitted to me to have your application completed. Now, the letter of recommendation, let me say something about that. The letter of recommendation needs to be from someone on this campus. Okay, nobody, no high schools or whatever. If you are a transfer student, then you can talk to me if you really feel strongly that you can't find anybody here. But the preference is that you find somebody on this campus. You need to find, it can be a professor or a TA. That's okay. TAs are totally fine. I usually get a lot of TA letters. That's fine. If you've already gotten a research lab and you want to ask your research professor, great. Or a graduate student that you've already started working with, that's great. If you want to ask a professor that you feel like knows you fairly well, that's fine, or TA or whatever. The person that you're asking, what you want them to be able to say about you is that you will perform well in an honors program. I don't necessarily need the letter to say, oh, this student took my class and did really well. I want them to be able to say something about your ability to succeed in an honors program. Okay? And there's a couple of sentences about that on the website, so you can look at what that says. The letter should be sent directly to me or given to you in a sealed envelope. And they can be emailed to me. The professor doesn't have to hand deliver it, or they don't have to send it through campus mail, please. That's actually the worst way. They can do that, but that's not the best way. But they can just email it to me or whatever, that's fine. But there's two parts to the letter. There's the letter, and then there's the form. Okay? The form is one of those checklist kind of forms that says, got a checklist on it. So please make sure that they get a copy of the form. You can just download that from the website and then hand it to your TA or your professor. Okay. Just a little bit about the timeline. So what happens is there's a deadline. I review everybody's applications during that first week. And then about a week after that deadline, I contact people that I feel are qualified for interviews. Most people will get interviews unless after that screening, it's very obvious that they're not qualified based upon minimum GPAs and such like that. So most people will get called for interviews, because usually if you take the effort to apply, you probably know whether you're qualified or not, minimally, based upon GPA and all. Then I spend about a week conducting interviews. The interviews usually take about 20 to 30 minutes each. So interviews. Then I will offer admission to those qualified students. This March 17th is like about the Monday before spring break. And usually by that Friday, actually I may have given myself more time this year, but by the Friday before spring break, I need to have students tell me whether they think whether they're gonna accept or not. That way we can get all the enrollment situations settled before the priority registration deadline. So the goal is for those of you who are accepted to know before you have to register for classes. Okay? Now another question a lot of students ask me is how many people are going to be accepted. We have room for something like 15 to 18 students. Okay? The past couple of springs I've had about 40 applicants for those spots. And I'll tell you that the competition has been very strong. I have a number of students who will apply that have straight 4.0 GPAs already. That's not uncommon. That doesn't mean if you don't have that you shouldn't apply. But recommendations submitted. If you make a mistake on the web form, so what I usually encourage students to do is make sure there's a couple essays on there, draft them on a separate thing, copy and paste. But if you do make a mistake after you submit it, just resubmit another one. If I see more than one application from somebody, I just look at the most recent one. Please don't bother to email me and say, oh, I made a mistake and I submitted another one. Don't, because that just clogs my inbox. I know. I just picked the last one, so that's fine. And then just wait, be patient, and I will contact you. Okay, so let me show you a couple other things on the web page real quick. The application, so you have to log in with your net ID and your password. Okay. So, application is fairly straightforward. I want your name, your UIN, your university email address. Freshman, are you a freshman, sophomore? How many semesters you've attended. If you transferred, I want to know that. What your cumulative GPA is. There's a note here, just to, in full disclosure, I will take your UIN and look up all of your information, which includes all of your grades, and I will check your GPA, and I will be tracking your midterm grades. Those of you who are freshmen, I will be tracking your midterm grades. And I will take those into account because it's very difficult to assess you after one semester of coursework. So I will be tracking your midterm grades, especially in MCB 150. I also want to know your MCB 150 discussion TA because sometimes I consult with them. Have they been coming to class? It's not a good idea to not go to discussion if you think you want to go into the honors concentration. Because if I contact your TA and they say, yeah, that student never comes to discussion, that's not good. And then 2 short essays, limited to 500 words each. And I do point out here that while I want them to be short, I will read them, and they are important. They are meant to give me some, because again, I have very little to go on, and I do not want to go solely on your academic record. So this is your opportunity to tell me something about yourself so that I get some kind of insight into your motivation, why you want to do this, your character, and that kind of thing. So just put a little thought and little time into those essays and try to make them individual. I don't need to hear from every single person. I want to be a doctor because I want to help people. So put some thought into that. I want to know who you're going to get your letter from, and a reminder that I need to get your letters. What happens sometimes is I get towards the end and I have to email people to say I've got your letter but I don't have your application, or I have your application but I don't have your letter, so I have to pair those things together. You can save, apparently you can save and finish later. I don't know if that works really well, so I don't know if I'd recommend that, but whatever. So that's the application. All right, that's about it. I think that's again, the letter of evaluation form is there. Just download this and print it out. It's very simple. you need to put your name, waive your rights, kind of typical. We have a couple of students in the honors concentration here who I'm going to bring up, have them introduce themselves. So we have Rachel and Aaron. You guys want to come up here? And this is really good actually, because Rachel is a senior. Well, she is a graduating senior, but she's finishing in this is her third year, so she's graduating early. And then Aaron is currently a sophomore.
I registered as a junior.
Okay. Well, so we've got one person who's just in his second semester in the honors concentration, and one person who's finishing up. So they could give you a pretty good perspective. So you want to say a little bit about?
Yeah. So like she said, my name is Rachel. I'm a senior, even though it's really weird for me to say that. Even weirder that I'm graduating soon.
Maybe, did you do what other things did you do besides honors?
Oh gosh.
Did you do a minor or another major? Or did you do research?
I was gonna go major in political science. I know a little bit about that.
She was this close, like 1 or 2 classes, but yeah, because she graduated early.
But it's not worth the money. So I'm gonna graduate and get out of here. I also do research in the Vanderpool lab on campus, genetics research. So if you have any questions about that, I can answer those questions. But yeah.
And what are you going to do next?
I'm going to take a year off because I blitzed through these to do work as a CNA, and eventually I'll start AMCAS in June and apply that.
Have you taken the MCAT?
Yeah, I've taken the MCAT. So you got questions about that? I can answer.
I have questions. So hi, I'm Aaron Ruderman. I'm a sophomore. But this semester I registered as a junior, so AP credits were a fantastic thing for me. Right now I am in the developmental biology and developmental biology lab. So the way that the curriculum is set up is first you do genetics and then you do developmental biology. So that's kind of where I am in the process. And I actually personally do not have any formal research experience, but I'm searching for a position in a research lab. I have interviewed with the Newmark lab. He does cell and developmental biology work with planarians and how stem cells differentiate and maintain their pluripotency. I also interviewed for the Blanky lab. He works on bacterial toxins and their biochemical mechanisms. But I'm still searching for a position, so that's kind of where I am. That's a little bit about me, and my career plans are either a joint degree, graduate medical school joint degree, or graduate school doing original research.